for it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Hannah and this is Kim, and we are human-centered instructional designers from the Belvista Studios team. So our team is extremely passionate about human-centered design. We absolutely love it. It helps us solve the right problems. It helps us create solutions that are contextual to our learners. And another really amazing part about it is it relieves the pressure of needing to be the expert. So when you're a human-centered design instructional designer, your mindset is all around curiosity. So it's around wanting to find out more information and being comfortable with not knowing anything. So for us, it's relieved a lot of pressure and made our life a lot easier. So for this webinar, some of you have questions around the blended learning experience cohort that happens next week. And some of you are just interested in human-centered design in general. So that's awesome. You're in the right place. You're going to learn a lot today, so good on you for being here. Kim and I are super excited. We can't wait to get into this. For anyone who doesn't know what human-centered design is, I'll just explain like a high-level definition. So basically what human-centered design is, it's about putting your user at the heart of your design. So every decision that you make and the way that you design your solution is based on your user's needs, their motivations, their challenges, and ultimately it means that it's a solution that makes sense to them and fits into their world. And that helps you change behavior. So it's pretty epic. I've said it a million times, but Kim and I love it. We're like fangirls of it. So this webinar is interactive. So in the heart of human-centered design, it's all about you. So make sure that you get what you need. Ask any questions that you have. You can type your questions into the chat. You can unmute yourself and ask whatever you would rather do, but please ask questions because this is all about you. We want to make sure that you get what you need. So we have some predetermined questions. Kim has some questions that have already been sent through, and some of them might be from people who are here, so that's awesome. So yeah, I guess let's get into it. Kim, what's your first question?
Well, Hannah, thank you for that. The first question comes from Stephen. So he's asked, if you get human-centered design right, what are the biggest payoffs that we can expect?
Okay, so there is a lot of payoffs, but I guess the ones that stand out to me, and jump in, Kim, if you think of anything else, would be the first thing is time. So when you use human-centered design, you're solving the right problem because you're speaking to people that are going to be impacted by the problem. So you save time in the way that you're not wasting time solving the wrong problem. So that's one of the biggest things that we see that comes from human-centered design. It saves you money. So you're not spending money on solving a problem that isn't the right problem. So for example, you might think that you need to train people on how to do something, so provide them with skills. But through human-centered design, it could reveal that it's all around motivation. So people might know what to do and how to do it, but they might not be motivated to actually do it. So through human-centered design, you reveal things like that, and it stops you from wasting money and time on solving the wrong thing. The other thing is the motivation of your learners. So when we use human-centered design, we create solutions that speak to them and make sense to them. And it like reflects things that they can actually take action on in the real world. So you end up engaging your learners more because you're speaking to them, you're writing in a language that they like respond to. And the other thing is performance. So you can, through human-centered design, you can understand what actions people would need to take and relate it to their context. And when you can understand that, you're in a much better position to be able to change behavior because you're providing a solution that makes sense to them. And it reflects actions that they can actually take and make sense in their world. So they're just some of the things. I don't know, do you have anything else you'd like to add, Kim?
I think that's probably enough to help people understand the value. Yeah.
Cool.
Nicely done. All right, I'll ask another question that's like a predetermined one that's come in beforehand, and then we'll throw to you humans that are here with us live. So you're happy to put it into the chat or just unmute yourself after this one. So another question comes from Lyndall. She's asked, what do we see as the similarities or differences between human-centered design, learning experience design, and user experience design and design thinking? So I'll take this one. I think it can be, there's so much going on in the world, and the easiest thing is just to remember that everyone is a problem solver. And if you think about yourself as a problem solver using whatever skill sets and tools and methodologies that you have, they can be applied cross-disciplinary, and doesn't matter what industry or what team you're in. That mindset of being a problem solver means that you can get a job in product design, in change management, in marketing, in learning and development. So just think of it that way. But at the end of the day, we're all just using our own tools. And even here with us, we've got our own separate tools that we use in the learning and development space, instructional design methodologies and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we're just problem solvers. And I think that makes it way easier to open up possibilities for like your career growth and the projects that you work on.
Very cool.
And now we'll throw to you, humans. What have you got for us? Get what you need.
Get in the chat, unmute.
I don't want to call on people, but I have been told that many people have lots of questions. Stacey, what's up?
Hi. So I guess thinking about projects that I'm working on right now, we're like revamping some diversity and inclusion training, and so our clients are really used to that being very compliance led and law and legislation led, but we realized pretty quickly that people don't really respond to that. They want that human, they want that, you know, we're all living in this world in 2021. We know the importance of diversity and inclusion. And I guess my question is like, how do we balance that kind of need for compliance from a client perspective and a human balance from a learner's perspective, and kind of, I guess, tick both of those boxes without going too far in either direction or not going far enough? Any thoughts would be very appreciated.
Go, Hannah.
So I'm thinking, good question, Stacey. I like that question. It made me think. So I think there's like the compliance policy side of things, which is important, like you said, but through human-centered design. So what we do when we get legislation or policies or documents like that we need to transform into learning is we go, okay, so there's this policy, there's like laws and things that people need to follow, but what would that look like in action in the real world? Mm-hmm. So it'd be around observing the user's environment, speaking to the user or the learner and understanding, okay, so if you were meeting this policy or this law, what would that look like in your environment, and what would make it most like easy for you? Like, what would it look like? And so for us, it's like extracting the actions and putting it into a context that's relevant to the user's environment that still enables them to meet the law or the legislation. Yeah. That's probably what I would think. What do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I think to get more practical on it, like that's it. And I know you're familiar with the YouTube channel, Stacey, like, so it's basically, you know, the empathy map, right? So when you're working with your stakeholders and you've got your learners, you've got subject matter experts, you've got other people that are part of that project working group, you're saying to them, you know, there's this legislation, section 9.A of whatever it is, and it says this. And like you say, nobody cares about that. We already know it exists, but no one's doing it. So, hey, stakeholders in our little workshop, if I saw someone do that effectively, what would I see? If I was a fly on the wall and I saw them do that thing in the legislation effectively, if they were a really good employee, the perfect employee, what would it look like? And you document that and saying, what would I hear them say? What might they be thinking, feeling, or doing? And you just document all that. And what that does, when you come from that perspective of what if I was a fly on the wall, from the empathy map perspective, it really moves you from text, you know, like information-based courses, especially for anything compliance or legislative, to actions and decisions. And we all, I think, are appreciative of action mapping by Kathy Moore, and that's our way of a human-centered design way of coming at actions and decisions. So when we go, I don't know, we all know we're not supposed to bully, but it happens in the workplace. So what does that look like in the workplace? Actually, sorry, we should use diversity and inclusion because that's your example. So diversity and inclusion, if I think about a simple one, is people in the workplace go for lunch together and they don't include someone. Hey, we're going down to the local cafe, let's go. And they leave someone out. Well, that isn't inclusive behavior. And I know there's many other aspects to diversity and inclusion, but when we think about that, it's like, what does that actually look like? It would be all people have the opportunity to go. So therefore the employees would ask, hey, does anyone want to come and join us on this like lunch break date or whatever we're up to? And everyone has the opportunity to respond. So now when we've done our empathy map, we actually have a scenario. So now that is fleshed out into a first person perspective. So what does that look like if you're turning it into e-learning or into a face-to-face activity as part of a workshop? So how can we now turn that into a scenario that's action and decision based? We have it going on, like we have the information now, and we also get the feedback from that. And I guess another just tool that you'll probably love is Alan's interactions. Google it. It's the CCAF model, and it's context, challenge, activity, and feedback. And if you do that with your stakeholders, especially around these kind of compliance topics, it takes them out of the legislation and information world, and it gets them into first person perspective. What would I need to do differently? See, act, make a decision differently. And you get things like your feedback written for you for a scenario. You get the actual scripts written for you for a scenario. That would be the things that I would recommend.
Okay, awesome. That's really useful. Yeah.
Another cool thing that we do with that is so when we have workshops with our clients and users, we get them to come up with a scenario. So say it's like be inclusive, we find out from them what are the actions that learners would actually have to take. And then we involve them in that process of using the CCAF model or the CAF model. So that's really good because the scenarios are like super contextual to their environment. And there's users there saying like, no, that wouldn't make sense for us, or that's not quite right. And we can get it like perfect for the context of the people that are going to be completing the solution.
Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you.
All right, we got another question. This one's from Emma. So can we give an example of human-centered design project that we've done and how human-centered design made it better if we hadn't have applied it? Do you want to handle that one, Hannah? Or
yeah, I have an example. So one that stands out for me is we created a solution for an aged care home. And basically it was helping people to, it was so long ago, what was it? Helping people to, avoid elder abuse. So avoid that from happening in their center. And what we did is we interviewed the workers within the center. So we found out like, what are the scenarios that you would face, and like really understood what their context and what their environment was like. And through that process, it enabled us to create these questions that were super contextual to their environment. So it meant that we knew exactly what the different positions were called. So like we found out it was like a nurse unit manager rather than just manager. And from that, like the final product was so good because it was so relevant to their environment and people, like it made sense to them. So that's probably the one that I can think of that really made a difference. The interviews were incredible. Like I remember finishing the interview and I was like, all the different interviews, and I was just thinking like, wow, like we have so much information, and it made it so easy to draft the questions. Like it wasn't like I needed to search on Google for anything. I didn't need to make anything up. It was just like, I had all of the information and the context, and I knew that it was right because it came from people on the front line in that context. So yeah, I think that was a pretty cool one.
And I think that one, so that actually ended up as it was purely multiple choice as the learning experience. So it was, here's the scenario, here's your choices, and the feedback had things like the key behaviors they were trying to train, and also linking to resources and further learning beyond that for people that were interested. And it was delivered through an app. So it was kind of looked like, basically you were doing like a chat, you know, how like the little dots come up. But I guess what was interesting around that was the client believed that there was certain challenges they were facing in the workplace around elder abuse. And here in Australia, there's like a big royal commission or something that, and that's where it came from. So it was being pushed down onto people to do training about better elder abuse. It's not people wanting to be there. It's more like a compliance. You have to do this. And it could be the fault of people to say, you have to do this. It's a tick the box exercise. But when Hannah did the user interviews, what that revealed was the context, the reality of their context in terms of what really plays out. And that was very different to what the client and the subject matter experts said should be in the training. So if I give an example, elder abuse, like it can be very simple things. It doesn't mean that everyone's getting like beaten up or not fed the right things or not given the right medication. It can be down to simple things such as someone's a vegetarian and they don't like a particular dinner that comes out. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't have anything. They should be forced to eat that. They should always be given the opportunity to have something else. So that's one example which was not revealed, you know, and it's how do you word it in a way that you can give choice to the person when they don't want that particular meal. And there was another one where shifts change. So what happens is someone's mid-serving or supporting a resident in the aged care place, and basically it comes to the end of their shift and they're like, I need to get out of here. I gotta go pick up my kids. So therefore they don't finish their thing. And without a proper handover, the next person coming in, that can actually be classed as elder abuse. Now, the contextual challenge of that is you're not paid. You do have other commitments to get to. So how can that be dealt with more effectively in the workplace? And how can that handover happen between the two employees effectively so that one is supported when they're leaving their shift and the other one that's starting is supported, and also the resident is supported? So they were things that we wouldn't have known unless we went out to talk to the employees to understand what is challenging in your world. If these are the things that are elder abuse, why do they play out? And it's like, well, it's not that we don't know that we're meant to ask, you know, for this, or we're meant to give them this, but this is the challenges. Like, it's crazy. Someone may have just like, I don't know, something dramatic's happening over here, another dramatic thing is happening over here. So how am I meant to, as an employee, prioritize that? So I think you just get a lot more context around the real world. And just to give another example, and I'll just call out for more questions in the chat, or get ready to unmute yourself to ask your question, is an induction. So we had to do there was a face-to-face induction for a large government client, and they wanted to convert it online. And the process of that was going to some of the human-centered design activities, going and sitting in their induction to experience it as a new employee, and think about how I responded to the facilitators. What information was I given that was necessary for me to go do my job as a new employee, and what was not relevant. And what happened for me there was a lot of ego came into the room, because they brought a lot of executives in, right? The executives are talking about, I've been here for 30 years and this is what I've done, this is why I'm great. But it never helped me or the other people in the induction understand anything about the organization and the contribution I was going to make as a new employee. So it was really interesting to experience that and think about, and because I was one of them, we were chatting in the breaks. So I get to observe and go, what value are you getting from this induction? how do you feel? Like, you're all excited about your new job. You've got this induction happening. How do you feel about it now? And they're like, well, it's kind of boring. Day one, I'm bored. Or I've been here 6 months. I know all this. This is a waste of my time. So we get data like that. Another thing that was really important was we did user interviews, and we rang people that were within their probation period. So their probation period, it was 3 months. So I rang people that had just started in their first week, and also people that were at the end of their probation, to say, what was missing in the support that you needed when you joined this organization? And traditionally with inductions, what we do is we talk about the mission and the strategic direction and the values, and this is what we do. But what came through those interviews was, that's great. And if I care about that as an employee, I can find that out. And in fact, I've already found that out when I researched to respond to the job application to find out if I wanted to work for that organization. So that was repeated information that didn't add value to me on my first day. And what continuously came up was, I'm anxious as a new employee. I don't know like what my start and finish times are. What are the break? Like, when can I have lunch breaks? And do I just go, or do I have to tell people? Can I have milk from the fridge, or do I have to bring my own to make my coffee? Where do I go for support? So that was the immediate thing. And then other things revealed from that. So how that transformed the induction is, instead of the information about the organization, we split it into, it revealed itself in terms of, they care about me, the individual, me, Kim Tui, joining this organization. What do I care about? Then from there, it went to their immediate circle, which was their team. So it was my supervisor and my teammates. Am I going to get along with them? All that kind of stuff. Then it went out to the wider organization. So what that looked like in terms of how the induction played out was just random little things. If you need support, go here. And here is, you need to book in time with your supervisor, bring your role statement, and ask any questions of your supervisor that you're unsure what those expectations might look like for you in your day-to-day role. Because there's a fall down, right? We're trying to capture, not all supervisors book in time and clarify expectations at the beginning of when people join the organization. And then what happens later on, months down the track, is we have performance issues, they're on performance management plans. So we were trying to capture and stop that from happening, because part of the initiative wasn't actually to focus on the supervisor's skills. That was part 2 of the induction. So what we were trying to do is get all these new people and infiltrate the culture of the organization with the new people that were energized, and say, hey, bring your role statement, book in time with your supervisor and ask questions. And then it went into, hey, maybe module 2 was on day 2. They were all like 15 minutes or less. And it was like, book in time with your peers and go have coffee. And here's how you send a calendar invite. And if you're not sure, here's the tutorial to go do that. And then on day 3 was things like, here's our values, and this is what they look like in action. And here's some quotes from employees to recognize other employees on demonstrating those values in action. So I guess that's kind of random, lots of information that may hopefully add value to you, Emma, and your question. But feel free to ask follow-ups.
Hey, Kim, Nicole. Once you've gone through that process, lots of observation, lots of interviews, you might find that what you find is different to the initial brief. So it's a matter of going back to the stakeholders, et cetera, et cetera. Just curious to know, in your experience, what that might look like, how that's handled, how that's, excuse me, how that might play out. I know every conversation is typically different, but the stakeholder might come to this project with, well, I want Belvista Studios to fix ABC, but they've actually told me that, yeah, there's ABC, but there's also X, Y, Z. So just curious about that, if that's something that you'd like to speak to. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So this is something that this is our human-centered design approach. So if you look at the playbook or anything that we do, it's the process from start to finish to stop that from happening. and also to get buy-in. And the very first thing you always hear me say is a success statement. So anytime a client, a stakeholder, internal, external, comes, there must be a co-created and agreed on success statement. When you do that together, everyone's on board and solving the right problem. So then at any point throughout the project, we can say, for example, they've come to us and said, we need these things tackled. And I go, cool. What I'm just going to do, so we make sure as the people that you're employing to solve this problem for you are on track, is we just want a project goal, a success statement. So let's work on that together. And then we go, we're going to do these activities, some human-centered design activities, they're involved in them. And then they see this stuff play out and they're part of that. So it makes it easier for them to go, oh yeah, you know, we did think the problem was this, but now we know that it's this. And so they're on that journey with us, and that makes it easier. It's not us and them, it's together. So I think if you have a success statement, that helps. Do you want more on that, Nicole?
No, unless others would like to chime in, but that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's the whole thing with human-centered design, and the way we approach it is that we are co-creating it with stakeholders. Now, they're not there all the time, but they're in those important workshops and they're in there at certain feedback points. And with that, we're co-creating it. Everyone has the buy-in. We all know what we're there to do, and it makes it easier. We're not working in silos. So we've got a question around what's an example of some success statements. So Hannah, can you pull one up from your mind, or?
Yeah, so I guess the one that comes to mind is the one that we have in our playbook. So it's leaders. So a success statement is it's a statement that reflects the future desired state. So when the project goal is met, what would it look like in the future? So that's how we do our success statements. And then throughout the project, that's what we strive for. So how do we create that to happen in the future? So an example success statement that we have is, so leaders are holding timely and effective performance conversations with their staff. But yeah, you speak on it, Kim, because you are really good at success statements. I learned a lot from you when it comes to success statements.
I think you just need to have, I'll point you to Kathy Moore as a starting point for a formula. So Hannah's identified two things. It's a future desired state, and it's who, your audience. And it's very specific, because is it all employees or is it just supervisors? You know, it's very different when you have an employee or a supervisor. So making that really specific could mean that you have one solution for all, or is it one for supervisors and one for employees? So Kathy Moore, this is where I first learned to write effective business goals. And it is something like, something we do now will increase or decrease by a certain date when the people, the audience, do X. So if you think about that, and if you just Google Kathy Moore business goal, you'll be able to just get the formula that I've said there. And she has a blog on it, which is quite detailed. And the data that we're looking at is, you know, HR might be able to go, oh, we've got all these court cases happening and we're spending all this amount of money on bullying and harassment complaints. So you can use that data to build your success statement. But I would say that it's very specific. And when it's specific, the benefit of that is that you're able to get your learning objectives from it. So Hannah's one that she said there was timely and effective. So then we go, okay, timely is a key behavior, effective is another key behavior. So we've got two learning objectives. Now we do need to go into more detail on them, but at least we're going from, this is our overarching goal, to now we have some things more specific to work towards. And then we personally at Belvista Studios use Bloom's taxonomy to get really granular on what is it that we would see people do in the future if they were the perfect employee demonstrating that behavior.
And it's really, really incredible too, because when you come up with a success statement throughout the project, we found in the past that stakeholders were wanting to add extra information. So say, for example, we were creating an e-learning course and it was just focused on teachers. And then at some point they were like, oh, we need to add in all this content for support teachers or for the office administration. And we're thinking, oh my God, like we don't have that content. Now we've got to create it. And what you can do when you have your success statement is say, okay, that's interesting. Let's go back to our success statement. And how does that help us meet our success statement? And if that, say the admin people aren't included in that success statement, then you can go, okay, like that's potentially going to be out of scope, and that's something we're going to have to think about separately. So it really, for us, it's like really protected us and our time. So it's enabled us to put up boundaries and really focus on getting that success statement right and not veering off and trying to achieve other things in the same project. So that's been really, really, like if we didn't have success statements, Kim, I feel like we would be a lot more stressed because people would be adding all this extra content and everyone would have a different view around what the goal is. And yeah, it just feels very stressful without.
Yeah, it makes like the project management side of things is way easier. It makes approvals way easier. And I'll just point you to, Kathy said she's used the Playbook to write a success statement. If you go onto our Creator Hub and you have a look at the HCD online course of the cohort, there's a free preview. And the free preview is what we call a creative conversation. It's the very initial kickoff to understand the brief. What's the desired future state, the business goals? So there's, I think, 6 questions. With those questions answered of the right people, that's how you write a success statement. So I just encourage you to go check that out for like your future development, and that will help. More questions? Unmute yourself. Don't feel like you're hogging either. You're here, so get what you need.
Hi, me again. Something that we're like really trying to do on my team is to get our clients thinking a little bit more like learning experience designers. So like doing a lot of what you said, Kim, of like trying to get them more involved in the actual process of making the learning. But some kind of obstacles we face are existing clients that might not really be used to us doing that. I'm just interested if you've got any ideas or any tips of how to kind of start that conversation with clients that might have a slightly bigger ego and are a bit more difficult to kind of have that discussion with, like if you've ever had that experience in the past. And I'm interested to know if you've been able to solve that problem.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because we go from, I'll throw out a couple of random things. This is just from my experience, and you kind of got to feel what resonates with you and what you're comfortable to do and where your stakeholders and clients are at. So first of all, it is conversations, and it's knowing what you can control, influence, and what's out of your control, okay? And a lot of time when you talk about what you've got with your clients is they haven't done it this way ever before. They know you for something else, right? Which is fine. That's how we've kind of evolved as well. So there we can only influence. So I just encourage you as much as possible to experiment with the activities where you can and have them involved. Because the best way for people to learn, if we think about the 70-20-10 model, is for them to experience it. So when they're part of it, they go, oh my God, light bulb moment, this is amazing, right? Or this is interesting, tell me more about it. And so although you may not get it on that project, maybe 12 months down the track, they'll be like, hey, remember Stacey, when you did that activity, we want to run that again for this new project, and we want to have all these people involved. So start having the conversation, talk about it as much as you can, because you do influence. Then what's within your control is, are there opportunities for you to run the activities and have a play and have them involved, or just do it yourself and get a better result? And at the end of the project, they'll go, that was cool. How'd you do that? And then you go, well, I actually ran this activity and this is a little bit different to how we've done it before, but I really love that you're appreciating and seeing the results. So they're just kind of conversation things you can have. And there's other stuff you can do in terms of priming clients or stakeholders at the beginning of a project. And you'll have to figure out your own kind of flow with it. And I'm experimenting as well. But I guess one thing that we always find as learning designers and L&D teams and that is that this seat at the table conversation. And it's so disappointing that we're not. But I think the more we have the conversation around training is not an expense. If you see training as an expense, it's not a problem worth solving. Training should be an investment in your people. And an investment in your people is an investment in your customers, which is an investment in your profit, which goes back into your people, your customers, and your profit. And it is this beautiful kind of experience. If that's what you want for your organization, then we are the right people to help you solve that problem. So thinking about the language we use, do you see training as an expense or an investment? Now, what happens is clients go, oh, definitely investment, obviously, or as stakeholders, of course I want it to be an investment. But then it makes it a challenging conversation because investment is a money conversation. I know that's outside of this human-centered design, so I'm going to like park that there. But the other thing is around, look, we can do what you're saying, but I'm concerned that in 12 months' time, you're going to come back to me and say that this problem still exists in your organization. Now, what I want to do is solve this problem to the best of my ability as an expert in what I do. And I respect that you're an expert in what you do. So let's do some activities, which is part of my process. We'll do them together and we're going to solve the right problem so that you change performance, you change behavior, and you move the needle on those business objectives that you're trying to achieve. So I feel like that's just a couple of things that you can say at the beginning, a couple of scripts that you can use to start talking about change in behavior, performance, strategic objectives, and investment, because that's what investing in people is really about.
Thank you.
Yeah, all good. If anyone else has stuff, put it in the chat as well, tips on that. I feel like that's an industry challenge we can all use some help with. All right, question from Luke. Hannah, I'll throw this one to you. So making the transition from training facilitation into instructional design.
I haven't done training facilitation before, so.
You did inductions.
Oh yeah, I did inductions actually. Yeah.
Come on, Luke. Yeah, good on you. Get specific. What do you need?
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit of context on that. Okay. I've been in learning and development for about 14, 15 years, primarily in face-to-face delivery, but also a little bit of consultation. So making the transition into strategic instructional design is obviously where I want to head. And certainly got some thoughts on that. But I suppose really where I'm coming from now is the career motivation to move towards instructional design as a PD opportunity, but obviously too, it's something that the marketplace is looking for very strongly. So I can design training, write training, facilitate training, consult with stakeholders, etc. But putting a strategy and a framework behind that and I suppose a deliberate set of intentions behind that based on best practice and what works, and making that jump is probably where I'm coming from.
Would you say that you write good training courses now?
I'd say yes, but I would say that there is room for improvement. And in my current organisation, in our entire education team of about 7 people, I'm the only person who's qualified, and everyone else is internal promotions based on being knowledge management expertise, SMEs, etc. So there's a gap in our business where we can sit back and get out of what I know into what do our learners need to know.
Yeah, okay. I would say you'll love human-centered design and you should have a look at the 2 resources.
I do.
Yeah, good. So I would point you to any of our human-centered design stuff. So the stuff on the Creator Hub or the stuff on our YouTube channel. That will help you get into, are we solving the right problem? And the second thing is Kathy Moore's action mapping. Just Google that flow chart or whatever she's got. That will help you. And I'll just leave it at that, because in terms of like further, they're the two things that have made us do it, and it's working.
Sure.
But Kathy wants to share some of her ideas on how it's worked for her.
Morning.
Hey.
Just quick. It's for mainly Luke. Like, I'm going through exactly the same. So I have a lot of experience in HR and training, and I've been a traditional trainer, and I've been a traditional writer of formatted training, evaluation, pack it away, you're done, thank you very much, move on. I'm moving now to instructional design, where it's a blended learning environment of people and pick up and individual modules become competent, be assessed, and continue to move on an ongoing learning journey. So, and I'm not part of this, I may be one of the facilitators, I may be part of it, but what I've done, and I have this massive challenge at the moment where nobody has received training. Well, they have, but it's probably not training. And I'm having to engage in a very big workforce. So I've incorporated I've created a map using the playbook. I've created my statement. I've gone back to the team, and I'm using the team as subject matter experts. So I found my key people within the team, and that could be people from brand newbies that have had the worst induction through to people that have been there 29 years. And they are actually part of my resources. So they're in my videos that I'm creating. They are part of my, and I have had to have the steepest learning curve on being, I am creative, but actually creating these human-centered design videos that there's a bit of humor in them. That's the only way we've been able to get people to come on board, because there's been a lot of rebuttal from everyone. So I've actually engaged key stakeholders, and that's motivated me to write engaging, non-face-to-face, boring training that I have been creating for 30 years. And it's fun. You got to find the fun. That's what I've been learning is we just laugh. We just laugh all day trying to create these human-centered design learning pieces. And I got feedback. I delivered one last week, and I was as nervous as batshit. And it went up, and I got people to give me feedback, and it took me all weekend to open the responses because I felt sick, and I got fantastic information and feedback and suggestions for the next one.
Well done.
And I wrote them into my next one. So the ones that gave me the best feedback, I've gone, great. And we've given them all names, not their employee names, to become part of the next online journey. And it's all competency based. It's all written in accordance to a training package. It's all written in accordance to our Australian national standards. I've got competency based training in it. I've got evaluations in it. I've done it absolutely as per the requirements of a training package, but I've just made it human-centered.
We're going through a similar challenge. We've taken everything that's traditional and put it into blended learning.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just conscious of time, because we did allow 45 minutes. Hannah and I will hang around, and because we've got still heaps of questions that haven't been answered that were sent through in advance for the people that couldn't make it live, but we will send you the recording if you do need to drop off. But while you're here, please unmute and get what you need. You gonna go again, Luke? No, you're good.
I'm good.
Anything else specific to human-centered design?
I do. My human-centered design. So my evaluation forms, I do struggle to move away from. So evaluating the actual content that's been delivered. So I'm not too sure how can you make them more human-centered, or kind of have, but I don't think I've done a good job in making, because we do need to have something, especially in government, that actually says that's added value to. I actually put the success statement written a bit differently within the evaluation now. So, one of my success statements at the moment is client service officers will be provided with accurate information as a source of truth to provide our clients with the correct information and process claims in a timely manner. Yep. So when I actually, sounds a bit woof, but that's what they do, and they haven't been. So I put that in, and then I ask questions within the evaluation of their learning, because it's all self-paced learning. It's not me delivering, so I can't evaluate on the spot. I ask them, has that learning objective been met? But how else could I make it human-centered?
Well, I think it's great that you have the success statement, and even within your success statement, there's things that are measurable. So you said timely manner. I think it needs to be a bit more specific, because I'm just going to give you like frameworks, and you guys have to apply it yourselves. But if one thing is, if someone picked anyone in the world picked it up, would they know what that meant? If they wouldn't, you need to get more specific. So that's one tool to help you be more specific. If anyone in the world picked this up, would they know what I mean by this? The other thing to help you evaluate is thinking about your intent behind the evaluation question. What will I, as the person that gets the feedback, do differently based on the answers that I get? So what is my intent behind this question? And the answers that I get back, what will I do differently as a result? So there are two things to help you write better evaluation questions. And then the third one is, if you have measurable goals at the beginning of the project, it's just going back and finding that out. So we used the example of earlier around the HR team has this much in lawsuits because of bullying and harassment. And then our training has been in place for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. What is that cost in lawsuits now? And is it directly related to our training, or what other initiatives were happening across the business that may have moved the needle, positive or negative, on that particular measurement? So the human-centered thing is about, what am I going to do differently? What is the impact, the change in behavior? And you're actually the human at the center of your evaluation. So you're kind of applying human-centered design to yourself. So I just give those as a framework to help you craft more effective questions that you can do something with afterwards, not just like, yay, this feels good.
Okay, so I haven't so the success statement that the team doesn't see is about reduction in incorrect processing of claims. And there is a lot of information that the success statement that I unpacked is totally different to the success statement they started with. But what I'm trying to do is now link, am I right in saying I create a success statement, I go off, I write the actual module, if the module is delivered, and the person who is, so there's two types of learning evaluation. The one that I'm trying to write is that the content that I'm delivering is actually allowing them to do their job effectively. And then there's an evaluation at the end of their 12-week probation or whatever it's going to be, that the supervisor can observe change, observe them doing the right thing. But what I'm trying to do is make sure, because I'm so new to designing these modules. It's different when you're facilitating face to face. You can actually stop, clarify, ask, engage the group that's learning, and clarify. But when it's a self-paced learning module, you're just assuming that they're actually learning.
Well, that's what our prototype is, and that's what human-centered design is. So with the prototype, when you write your course, right, Kathy, you've got, like, maybe it's in a Word document to begin with, or a PowerPoint, so your storyboard, something like that. At that point, you need to go out and validate. You said reduction in time for something. So one of the things you say is, when you go out to your learners and say, hey, can you have a look at this? Is this going to help you? Do you think this will make you do things faster or more efficiently? Or is it going to, so you'll find out information then when you're writing the content, which will allow you to adjust and make improvements before you go to your next iteration. So before it ever comes into an e-learning, which it sounds like that's what you're creating, self-paced learning, you're getting feedback on, are you meeting that evaluation, that change in performance or result that you're looking for. So that would be a human-centered approach. That's what prototyping is about. So we're not waiting and wasting all this time where we've created content, released our solution to the world, and then evaluating, is it effective or not? We're continuously doing that along the project.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'd encourage that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I have applied that. I think that as a trainer, one of the hardest things to do is to actually, you have so much in your noggin, in your head, and when you're training, and you can read the room, and you can actually facilitate, to actually take all of those internal skills and have a good application that can put them into a module that still delivers on brief. And I am actually, I am doing I could do a lot better. I was thrown in the deep end to write the first one. But yeah, I'm going to have to go back and have a good evaluation of my own content now to see if I'm actually keeping the success statement in mind, listening to what the subject matter experts are telling me, knowing what the person who's actually going to be doing the role is getting the right information. So then when I'm asking the measurable goal questions, that they're not just ticking a box just to keep me happy. Yeah, okay.
Good plan. And Nicole's just added, maybe think about a pilot, which is another version.
Oh, yeah, no, I do all pilot runs. Like I never. So what I'm doing in this new role, I have 12 modules to write. I have 6 months to write them. We just had a new system shit itself basically, and it had to go back to a manual process. So I had to write training within 48 hours and deliver it in an online delivery because everyone's working from home because we went into a lockdown. So we it was good. I managed to get it done, but now that I've listened to you, Kim and Hannah, I'm going to go back and but I'm honest, I love the playbook, and I've used it for each module. It sits behind all of my 12 modules. And I actually deliver it in a PowerPoint presentation. I've changed a couple of the questions because it suits the subject matter that I'm dealing with, but I've presented it to the executive team to say, this is what I'm using. Are you happy? And they're going, yes. Each of them within each executive team, I have 6, have written their own success statement. And they're chomping at the bit to get it done. And the questions were really hard for me to ask certain executives, and there was a lot of rebuttal, but it's a shift in the way they actually invest in people.
That's what Kathy's referring to, which is what we shared earlier, is the creative conversations questions. So jump in, get the free preview and look at them. That's what she's sending. And what they have to celebrate there is, first of all, you're facilitating a process, which is using the playbook to extract the information, and you're co-creating. So that ownership, that's awesome that the executives are writing their own success statements. So yeah, nice work. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, all good. Nah, I'm glad that it's working. That makes us proud. It's good that it's not just working for us. Any other questions while we're here live? Thanks for joining us live as well. Appreciate you showing up and choosing to learn with us always.
Very grateful.
Appreciate it. Stacey, you got anything else?
No, I think a lot of people have asked a lot of things that have been flying through my mind, but watch me come off and think of 10 more questions. It's also like 11 at night in Edinburgh.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm like, oh, I feel you know. But no, this has been great.
Dedicated.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I mean, like, we're still kind of in a lockdown, so it's like this is the hottest plans I've had for a very long time, you know. So, yeah.
Nicole, have you got any final ones while we're here together?
Oh, thank you. I'm racking my brains, but having said that, I'm still processing everything that's been spoken about in the last hour or so. It's just been incredible. So thank you for this opportunity. I did have a question around learning objectives, but Kim, you were able to cover that through Kathy Moore and business goals and Bloom's taxonomy as well. So that was great. Thank you for that. But I'm super excited to start my day. Stacey, here in Melbourne, Australia, it's 4 minutes to 8 in the morning. So I'm about to start my day. So I'm super excited to get started and do some human-centered work. And I guess, Kathy, as well, you're ready to start your day as well. So no questions is the short answer. Thank you.
We've got other questions that we are going to finish, so you can hang around and do them, because other people that couldn't make it will answer them. So you're welcome to hang around. Otherwise, we'll send you the recording.
Yeah.
But did you have you want to say anything before we get into that, or you want to just listen?
I have a quick share if everyone has the capacity. We were talking before about human-centered design and scenarios and walking in the shoes of the learner so we can best help them do what they do and see a change in their behavior. I saw something just recently. It is video based, but it was a real aha moment for me, where it's easy in a compliance or even in a standard operating procedure. Hey, staff, this is what we would like you to do. But, you know, to actually, as a consumer or as a learner or someone out in the field, to actually do what they say in that document can be a little bit hard to translate. So it was a real aha moment for me to see. It was in the United States, and they used a GoPro fitted on someone's chest, and they had a conversation of, this is how the conversation is not what it should be. And it was around having difficult conversations with performance management. And then the second video was, well, this is what a really stable, sound, productive, effective conversation would look like, and through that first person perspective. And that really resonated with me. It was like, oh, okay, well, this is what you would like me to do, and now you've actually given me some really sound examples of how to achieve that. So it's not actually when I apply that to my work, I'm not actually going to, you know, verbatim repeat what I said, but at least it's given me a kind of a framework and even a tone in the voice as well that was captured through that video, coming through that seek to understand. So I appreciate that not everyone has access to GoPros and all that sort of thing, but I thought it was just a real aha moment. And I thought, wow, that's human-centered right there. That's what boots on the ground sounds like, if I can use that phrase. Yeah.
That's so cool.
May I just share something, Nicole?
Yeah, please.
I last year did one for allied health professionals in Brisbane, Australia, and we used Teams. We actually did really bad interviews to start with. We script them on how to not speak with your client in drug and alcohol, so very sensitive subject matter, in Teams. And it was really effective. It was another lockdown strategy. So we used Teams to video record on a laptop, two managers and myself, we did a performance meeting on coaching allied health professionals and how to effectively communicate with clients during lockdown, all on Teams. Wow. And it was really, really great. Got excellent. And then we created 8 podcasts after it because it got such good traction. Oh, so we then had to go to Officeworks and find a great microphone and another camera, but it was really engaging because it was supervisors with the team knew, and so they felt really comfortable listening and engaging in the conversation all through Teams. So there's some really good resources out there. You've got to get a bit savvy, and I'm so not, I'm technically challenged. So I just want to share that with you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think sometimes it's a matter of giving yourself permission to think different as well.
Oh, I'm doing that every day. I am so not like Hannah and Kim. I am like old-fashioned, and really outdated, and I've had to come into the 21st century and land and do a good job.
There's a cool activity you can do, because I think putting constraints on your learning design really helps that creativity and solve a problem. And it's just it could be random things, right? So you say, if I had $1 million, how would I solve this problem? If I had $1, how would I solve this problem? If I had a year, how would I do it? If I had 10 minutes, how would I do it? So thinking about things like that are all sizes, shapes, they help you with those constraints, help you think differently about the problem, and then help you solve it in a more effective way. So I think just that's a brainstorming activity, which is human-centered. You can Google it. There's more on the playlist as well, on our YouTube playlist, on how to do brainstorming. But I feel like doing those allows you to, especially like when a lot of learning designers, they don't always have access to a team. So when you're solo trying to solve the problem or come up with an activity, using activities that are brainstorming like that allow you to get out of your head and think about things differently. So yeah, I'll just experiment with that. I'm just going to quickly go through some of the questions. So we've got one from Matthew. How is human-centered design different from learning-centered design? Learner-centered design, I'd say it's the same thing in my experience. You're basically going to the people, your learners, and solving the problem that is relevant to you. I think human-centered design just comes from, it's just terminology, like product world to we're in the L&D world. So that's why we use learner-centered. So I'd say the same thing. We had a question from Cameron around time commitment needed to create a solid prototype or sample of work. I would say that is relevant on what it is, but things like an email is a prototype, a storyboard is a prototype. So whatever, I would say a prototype is the most, the roughest form that indicates an idea about the solution, and then go test it. Hannah, would you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I think definitely what you said, and also thinking around what do I actually need to move to the next stage. So like that will help you understand what you need to include in the prototype. So if you need feedback on certain things, you need to make sure you get that part right so you can move on to the next stage. So I think it really does depend what you're wanting out of that prototype as well.
Good thing, yeah. And it's always, that goes back to the question before. I was saying, what is my intent behind what I'm trying to achieve? I think that's something always useful.
Yeah.
And another question, Hannah, for you is the impact of instructional design on present day business.
Well, I think instructional design is huge. From like my experience as being an instructional designer, I did used to see it as like you're just designing training solutions. But the more that I learn about instructional design and we expand the way that we do things with human-centered design and psychology and marketing and all of that, I think that we truly do have such a big impact on businesses because we help them solve problems and we help them solve the right problems. So for me, like instructional design is not just about training now. It's around like helping businesses solve problems in whatever format that is. It might not be training, it could be something completely different. But yeah, I think instructional design is so important for businesses. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think like it's such a skill set that's going to solve world problems and also future proof our careers. And over time, we will be incredibly valuable to businesses and the projects that we're solving and problems that we're working on. Yeah. And Stacey, this question's for you because it is an opportunity for you to reflect on what we shared earlier, but how would you encourage learning teams to take a human-centered design approach when they're very traditional?
So I think I think what resonated with me the most from earlier is that whole, I'm concerned that this isn't actually going to solve your problem and you're just going to come back to me in X amount of time with, we get it. We've had it a lot in the past where people come back and they're like, oh, just got a few amends to this project. And we're like, your review process ended 3 months ago. So this isn't really that an amend. It's the fact that it's not working and we're going to have to charge you more money and, talk about this a bit more. So I think that's kind of like the biggest kind of like hook for me is that like, kind of thing. I think that like there's kind of a conflict sometimes with more traditional clients where you kind of say, oh, that might be a bit too heavy, or that might be a bit too long, or that might be a bit too much, and they maybe see that as you not wanting to do that work. And it's like, actually no. And I think that taking it from that approach of thinking about the problem you're trying to solve, it kind of makes them realize that you are trying to help, you're not trying to make less work for yourself. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and so this question's from Katrina, and Katrina, I would say as well, just start doing the activities and involving them, because once the people experience it, they will love it and they'll want to do more of it. I've never had anyone turn away from any kind of human-centered design stuff and be like, that was a waste of time. So do a persona activity with them, do user interviews, do empathy mapping, run brainstorming activities, get them to experience it, and then they will be as in love with human-centered design as you are. And I think you can start
wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. That was such an awesome session. I love how involved everyone was like that. It's just so cool, the energy that's been here today. So thank you so much for bringing that energy along with you. It's been awesome to have you. So you're going to receive a follow-up email that's going to have further learning and development opportunities, and it'll also have the recording. So check that out. Just let us know if you have any questions around the cohort that's starting next week. It's going to be epic. So if there's anything you need to know to help you decide whether you want to do that, please ask him and I. We're happy to answer your questions. Before we go, so in the spirit of good learning, we always want to reflect. So I just wanted to check in with each of you around what action you're going to take in response to the session today from what you've learned today. So just one action, you can type it in the chat, you can unmute yourself and share it with the group, or reflect on your own, but just think about something that you're going to do differently after today's session.
I am going to give myself some homework and get myself better at success statements and do some more study and do some more reflection. And I'm just in the throes of starting a new project in the coming week. So I can't wait to write a success statement around that particular project that we're going on. So, yeah, thank you.
Love it, Nicole. Awesome.
I think I'm going to start, I've got a few new client projects coming up, and I think I'd really like to start experimenting a little bit more with activities and getting the client involved a bit more and being like, what do you think of this? Kind of those good practices that I do internally with my team kind of bring the client into that kind of conversation a bit more and see how it goes. You know, see what they say.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Very cool. Kathy, do you have anything?
I'm writing so many notes. I'm still so I'm loving instructional design. Like I probably have done elements of it throughout my career, but I'm really just now going to go back and give myself some homework as well, and really think through how human-centered design and the way in which I deliver what I'm doing meets the needs of the client, and it's not just my own agenda. Like I'm really making sure that that doesn't sound right, not my own agenda, but that I am actually, what is my intent, as Kim has taught me? I say that all the time. So really thinking about what is my intent, what are their needs, and how can human-centered design really make the organisation I'm working with at the moment kick some amazing goals. That's what I'm going to do. So,
love it.
Yeah, a lot.
Beautiful way to
Cool.
end, I feel.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it, everyone. Feel free to hang around if you do have any final questions, but thank you so much for being here today. It's been awesome and good on you.
Yeah, it's nice to connect with you.
Your time. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm off to work now.
Thank you.
Bye.
What's up, awesome human? Thank you on behalf of myself and the Belvista Studios team for continuously choosing to learn with us. We really appreciate it. If the tips and the insights and the context resonate with you and you want to take your skills to the next level, or you want to make your life way easier, you will love our Creator Hub. The Creator Hub is a place for people like you and us. Basically, it's the stuff that we use internally at Belvista Studios, and then we just share it publicly with you. The Creator Hub is created by instructional designers for instructional designers, and what you'll love there at the moment is we've got a quiz, Could I Be a Better Instructional Designer?, that has so much tips in the feedback if you're interested in human-centered design or just taking your skills to the next level in terms of the solutions you're creating and the problems you want to solve. But in there as well, aren't we cute? That's us. But we've got the coaching courses, freebies, give us gratitude, and also we've got some templates. And basically they're always around the lens of learning experience design, instructional design, and e-learning. So a human-centered design focus is very much what we're about at Belvista Studios. So putting your learners at the heart of a solution and creating something for their needs. So there's the human-centered design stuff, and then we've also got the business stuff. So this is the stuff they don't teach you about when you want to become a freelancer or a consultant in the instructional design world. So go check it out. The link is in the description. You can check out everything that is available for you. Thank you for choosing to learn with us. Continuously invest in your skills. You will be rewarded as an instructional designer. Share this stuff, share it with other people, because when we are better instructional designers, we create better solutions that create better humans, that create a better world. So we have a very important role, and I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Have an awesome day.